He didn't make it.
He's gonna die! Yes! Let's go!
Hey all, welcome to the channel. This is going to be a first video in a series of videos covering every aspect on what it means to be a highly skilled druid. This video will serve as a table of contents that you can see on screen now. This is going to be a masterclass broken down into some key categories of interest. Due to the complex nature of Druid and its extreme flexibility, I found that it made the most sense to make shorter, more digestible videos that you guys can use at your leisure. I will also add new content as more forms and spells come to the class, but rest assured I took every effort to make my advice and training as future-proof as possible. Lastly, every video on screen is also located down in the description. In order to not flood my current subscribers' inboxes, I'm going to be releasing 1 to 2 videos per day for the first couple weeks of this wipe until the series is fully released. If you're a member of the channel, you already have instant access to every video right now. A little background on myself. I'm currently over level 400 on Druid. I've made several other guides here, including the Druid Bible, as well as a demigod guide specifically for Druid. Across my different Druids, I typically maintain a 10-to-1 kill-death ratio. This guide also has supporting evidence from Skilled, another top 50 Druid in the solos and trios bracket. Additionally, in my professional life, I'm actually a flight instructor, so I know how to make educational content that is both useful and engaging. That said, this series took a huge amount of effort and time. Some of the more potent material, like bossing guides and the rat guide, will be locked for members only. Please consider supporting the channel so I can continue to make the case to my wife that playing Dark and Darker is actually beneficial for our family. For this video, I'm going to talk about strengths and weaknesses, different playstyles, perks, spells, and all the different forms that a druid has. For strengths, you've got the strongest attacks in the game. You have the best mobility in the game. You want to check my movement guide in the description for the how-tos on how to use this movement tech. The class is extremely flexible, is extremely high skill ceiling, and can heal. The gear is normally pretty cheap. You have really good PDR, and is potentially the fastest PvE clear in the game outside of maybe a warlock who has pulled an entire module in his hellfiring. As for weaknesses, you have the worst range in the game. This has an extremely high skill floor as well, which means it's difficult to get into and difficult to learn. You're extremely gear dependent, especially in the later stages of the wipe. Your forms scale off of your base stats, so without gear, you're not going to be doing very much. If you want to play solo and push for rank, it's going to be difficult to do PvE in anything outside of bear form, so keep that in mind. Lastly, the class has very pitiful MDR, at least for now. You can compensate this with gear, but generally strength gear doesn't have much magic resistance on it. Now, let's talk about playstyles. The main way that you play Druid today comes down to a few specific playstyles. You have the extremely high damage bear, you have tanky version of the bear, you have the healing version with bear, you have panther, you have hybrid panther, as well as chicken, and other dedicated healer builds. All of these builds have videos linked in the description if you want to learn more. Let's talk quickly about perks. We have Dreamwalk. This is a short Phantomize. This is excellent for getting out of bad situations or allowing you to gap close on your enemies. Enhanced Wildness. More move speed and armor in animal form. This is very good on any animal build. Force of Nature. I only ever pull this out in 3s unless you're really looking to min-max your damage and try to one-tap somebody. Herbal Sensing. This is probably the biggest meme in the game. That said, if you're listening to this video, SDF, I think it would be really cool if you renamed this perk to Alchemist and made it so that all of your consumable pots are 33% more effective when consumed using this perk. That's just my idea. Natural Healing. This perk is noob bait. It sounds good in practice, but it's extremely weak as most fights in this game are determined by burst damage and burst healing. Health pots and bandages are a much more reliable way to keep your health topped up than using this in a perk slot. Shapeshift Mastery. This is essential. You're going to equip this as soon as you make your druid, and you're never ever going to take it off. Your movement tech will not work without this perk. Spirit Bond. This is decent in 3s. You can ensure you get more value from your AoE heals because damage from the front line is transferred back to you so that you actually get value instead of just healing yourself when you're already full. Be warned though, this can instantly kill you in rat form. Spirit Magic Mastery. Largely useless until they add more spells. Currently, you only have one damaging spell that benefits from this. Sun and Moon, this is very solid in 3s, 9 extra health for your team, and the magical power is also really good for almost any composition, and Vigor actually scales further in bear form. You get 4 health per Vigor, so this is actually 12 health just for you in bear form. Thorncoat, this is extremely good for any animal build. You'll be surprised how many times this actually gets you kills. Think of this perk as 5 true protection and 5 true reflection to any melee coming your way. If it takes 6 hits to kill you in bear form, that's 30 true damage reflection. Right, let's quickly talk about spells. First up, we have Nature's Touch. Think of this as a health pot, as it heals you for roughly the same amount. The recharge time on this is extremely fast. Put this on a friend and then you Dreamfire an enemy, they will receive 10 base healing instantly. This spell scales at 50%. Barkskin Armor. This gives you 25 armor rating for 10 seconds. This spell is something that you would only use in your kit if you don't have the spell capacity that you need to run something different. Even with 50% additional buff duration, this spell only lasts for 15 seconds. Dreamfire. Your only ranged poke outside of throwable consumables. This is pretty decent for kill securing or rapid healing with Nature's Touch mid-fight. Both of these, your damage and the healing, scale at 100%. Thorn Barrier. This can be jumped outside of doorways. It can be meleeed to death, but most people won't do that. This does a very tiny amount of damage, and I'll elaborate on that a lot more in my pro tips video. This spell does not scale for any damage. Entangling Vines. This is an AoE root on the ground that can also hit your allies. This is generally more useful in open spaces than Thornwall would be, while Thornwall would be more useful in narrow spaces. Restore. This is one of the best pound for pound heals in the game. Restore heals you for 30 with 50% scaling. This means in team fights, it's roughly 90 health restored over 10 seconds for your team before you have any gear on. You only get 3 charges of this, and the charges take a long time to come back. Summon Treant. This summons a Groot. Groot has 150 health and does about 35 damage per swing with an impact power of 4. He moves at a speed of 150 and has typical mob resistances. He is stronger when you spawn him in water, but I'm not sure by how much. Tree of Life. Largely useless. This spell is rank 6, so it's extremely expensive to try and fit into your build and only lasts 10 seconds. We have only used this to try and get record clear times on bosses and very seldom in PvP. If the buff lasted 30 seconds or could be applied to yourself, then it would be a lot more valuable, so keep an eye on this to get buffed down the road. Mending Grove. Mending Grove is like Sanctuary, but in my opinion a little bit better. Mending Grove gives 10% max additional health bonus to anybody inside of it and heals for 10 health per second for 7 seconds, which is 70 healing, and does not scale. This spell is notoriously bad with any kind of verticality, so be careful using it on stairs. If you res a friend and you cast it on the Hell Shrine and then they drop off, they will not get any healing. The spell comes back decently fast. Do not be afraid to use it as a quick reset. What I do is when my teammate or myself is under 50%, I think Mending Grove time. All right, let's finish up by talking about animal farms. First up, we have Rat. Rat is one of your most powerful tools as a druid. It's going to take you a long time to get comfortable playing as a rat because you die in one hit to basically anything, and any decent druid will tell you you got to take your licks, you're going to hit your spikes, you're going to die a lot in rat form. Get comfortable, get used to it now. That never really truly goes away entirely, but my advice, the best way to get good at rat, get comfortable with rat, go to the ice caverns, run around and grab mobs and try to drag them into enemy players. A lot of mobs can't hit you when you're in rat form, Yetis included. So get those jitters out, get comfortable, and learn that by just going to that map and repeating that process over and over. You can also check the description for my Rat Masterclass video, which covers all of this stuff in detail, including all the different mobs and which ones can and which ones can't hit you. Next up we have Bear. Bear happens to be my favorite spec. This is the one-tap machine. My advice here for learning Bear is pretty simple. Get used to getting hit. From the very beginning of this game, when you first load into your first dungeon, everybody is taught extremely quickly that getting hit in this game is very painful and there's a very low time to kill. Because of that, most players adopt the mentality of never get hit, because it makes sense, it keeps you alive. You want to break that. Get used to abusing your insane health pool to win fights. I talk a lot more about bear in many of my other videos. Feel free to check them out for more information. Next up, we have Panther. This is your travel form. You'll navigate around the map most of the time in Panther form. You are squishy compared to your other forms because you lose a little bit of your max health bonus, but this has one of the best gap closes in the game with your dash, and after you dash for a few seconds, you have a one-time built-in silence with your right click. This can be extremely powerful in the right hands, and Panther is good in the right hands, but I do not recommend learning Panther as your first build, as you are extremely squishy and you will often die in 2 hits. Lastly, we have Chicken. You can use double jump to great effect to turn the tides of a fight. Do not forget that you have a free small heal with Chicken that scales off your resourcefulness. I've done some pretty potent Chicken builds that are extremely good at mining for early wipe. Check that Chicken video if you want to learn more. Well, that covers it for the basics, guys. Please check that description for all the topics on screen. If this guide was helpful for you in any way, super chats and donations in the comments are always much appreciated. I'll see you in the dungeon.